Picture this. You haven't eaten properly in weeks. Your tongue is swollen from dehydration, your skin cracked and bleeding from sun and salt. Below your flimsy rubber raft, sharks circle patiently. Suddenly, a bird lands nearby. Your reaction? Not awe, not curiosity. Pure primal hunger. You lunge, kill it with your bare hands, rip it apart, and devour the raw flesh and blood. Sound appetizing? Probably not. But for Louis Zamperini, catching birds, battling sharks, and enduring unimaginable hardship wasn't a nightmare. It was Tuesday, and it went on for 47 agonizing days. How does anyone survive that? Buckle up. The answer is stranger, tougher, and more unbelievable than you think. Before he was lost at sea, Louis Zamperini was lost on land in a way. A rebellious kid in Torrance, California, constantly getting into trouble. His older brother, Pete, saw his raw energy and pushed him towards track. Turns out Louis could run. Fast. Like really fast. He shattered high school records, earned the nickname Torrance Tornado, and incredibly, landed a spot on the U.S. Olympic team for the 1936 Berlin Games. Yeah, those Olympics. Hitler's Olympics. Louis didn't medal in the 5,000 meters, but he ran the final lap so astonishingly fast it reportedly caught Adolf Hitler's personal attention. This kid already had a history of surprising people with his sheer grit. But then, global headlines shifted from Olympic glory to global war. Zamperini enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces, trading his running spikes for the bombardier's seat in a B-24 Liberator bomber. Stationed in the Pacific Theater, his job involved staring through a bomb site and dropping explosives on enemy targets. Dangerous work, obviously, but the mission that changed his life forever wasn't even a combat run. In May 1943, Zamperini and his crew were sent out on a search and rescue mission near Palmyra Atoll. They weren't flying their usual reliable bomber, but a notoriously temperamental B-24 nicknamed the Green Hornet, known for being a flying lemon. Mid-flight, disaster struck. 2 of the plane's 4 engines failed. The massive bomber, losing altitude fast, became uncontrollable. Zamperini and the crew braced for impact. The Green Hornet slammed into the vast Pacific Ocean and disintegrated. Out of 11 men aboard, only 3 survived the violent crash. Zamperini, the pilot Russell Allen Phil Phillips, and tail gunner Francis Mac McNamara. They scrambled aboard 2 small, inflatable life rafts, salvaged from the wreckage, lashing them together. They had minimal supplies. A few squares of military ration chocolate, some water tins, a flare gun, fishing tackle, and patching kits for the rafts. Around them, nothing but endless blue water stretching to the horizon in every direction. The ordeal had begun. Day 1 merged into Day 2, then Week 1. The initial shock wore off, replaced by the grim reality of their situation. The sun beat down mercilessly, frying their skin. The nights were freezing cold. Salt water constantly splashed into the rafts, creating painful sores. Thirst became an obsession. They meticulously collected rainwater during squalls using pieces of canvas. The emergency water tins were quickly depleted. The chocolate vanished even faster when a panicked Mac ate it all in the first night, a move that likely shortened his own survival chances. Hunger gnawed relentlessly. This is where Zamperini's resilience, perhaps honed by years of athletic discipline and youthful mischief, kicked in with desperate ingenuity. He started fishing, using makeshift hooks or even his bare hands to snatch small fish that swam near the raft. When seabirds, primarily albatrosses, occasionally landed on the rafts, mistaking them for solid ground, Zamperini would stealthily grab them. Killing and eating these birds raw provided precious nourishment and hydration from their blood. It was gruesome, but it was survival. Then there were the sharks. Drawn by the scent of captured fish or the men themselves, sharks became constant, terrifying companions, bumping against the rafts, their fins slicing through the water nearby. Zamperini learned to fight back. He'd jab them with an oar, punch them if they got too close. Incredibly, they even managed to catch smaller sharks, killing them and eating their livers, a vital source of vitamins that likely prevented scurvy. Imagine the scene, 2 or 3 emaciated men in a tiny raft wrestling a shark aboard. It sounds like a tall tale, but it was their brutal reality. Maintaining sanity was as crucial as finding food. Zamperini took charge. He'd quiz Phil endlessly on geography or history. He'd describe his mother's Italian cooking in mouth-watering detail, forcing their minds onto something other than their suffering. They prayed. They sang. They talked about the future, clinging to the hope of rescue. Mac, however, struggled immensely, racked by guilt over the chocolate and succumbing to despair. Around day 33, Francis McNamara died, leaving only Zamperini and Phil adrift. The sheer duration is staggering. 47 days, over 6 weeks. Think about that. Try floating in your bathtub for an hour and see how you feel. These men endured this, exposed to the elements, starving, dehydrated, constantly terrified, for 1,128 hours. They drifted an estimated 2,000 miles. During this time, they were even strafed by a Japanese bomber, puncturing their raft. They frantically patched the holes while sharks circled below, drawn by the potential meal. They survived monstrous storms that threatened to capsize their fragile crafts. It was a relentless assault on body and mind. On the 47th day, delirious and skeletal, they finally spotted land. An island in the Marshall Islands chain. Rescue. Except not quite. The island was occupied by the Japanese Navy. Their rescuers were now their captors. Their unbelievable ordeal at sea was over, only to be replaced by a new, perhaps even more insidious form of suffering. Zamperini and Phil were taken as prisoners of war. What followed was over 2 years of brutal captivity in various Japanese POW camps, including the notorious Ofuna Interrogation Center and Omori and Naoetsu prison camps. They faced starvation diets that made the raft rations look like a banquet, systematic beatings, forced labor, and psychological torture. Zamperini, the famous Olympian, became a particular target for sadistic guards, especially the infamous Mutsuhiro Watanabe, nicknamed the Bird, who seemed obsessed with breaking the American runner's spirit. The details of his POW experience are harrowing, enough for another entire story, famously chronicled in Laura Hillenbrand's book, Unbroken, and the subsequent film. But the key takeaway here is that the same unyielding spirit, the same refusal to give up that kept him alive fighting sharks and starvation on a raft for 47 days, also carried him through the dehumanizing hell of the POW camps. He endured beatings that should have killed him, maintained a spark of defiance, and crucially, held onto a sense of self-worth when the entire system was designed to obliterate it. When Japan surrendered in August 1945, Zamperini was finally liberated. He returned home a hero but deeply scarred, battling PTSD and nightmares. His journey wasn't over. He struggled with alcoholism. His marriage nearly collapsed. But in another testament to his resilience, he found a different kind of salvation, attending a Billy Graham crusade in 1949. This newfound faith helped him conquer his demons and, remarkably, led him to forgive his Japanese captors. He even traveled to Japan years later to meet with many of them, offering forgiveness in person, though the Bird refused to see him. Louis Zamperini's life reads like fiction. An Olympic race against Hitler's backdrop, a terrifying plane crash, an impossible 47 days adrift, fighting for survival against the raw power of nature, followed by years of brutal captivity. It's a story layered with suffering, yet underscored by an almost superhuman endurance. 47 days facing sharks, starvation, and the scorching sun, then years of torture. Most would break. Zamperini? He just refused to be broken.